This is Folktale and Stories on Spotlight TV.
There was once a girl named Layla. She was 16 years old and very beautiful. Her skin was smooth, her hair was long and black, and her eyes shone like stars. Layla lived in a small village with her mother. Her father had died when she was little, so her mother did all she could to take care of them. They were poor, but Layla's mother always made sure she went to school and had food to eat. One day, a rich man named Mr. Coffee came to the village. He lived in a big palace far away and was looking for young girls to work in his house. He needed someone to help clean, cook, and serve guests. Mr. Coffee was known for his wealth and power. Many people in the village respected him, even though they didn't know him well. Mr. Coffee saw Layla and was struck by her beauty. He spoke to Layla's mother and promised that Layla would have a good life if she came to work at his palace. He said she would be well fed, have nice clothes, and get paid money that could help her family. Layla's mother thought this was a great chance for Layla to have a better life, so she agreed. The next day, Layla left her village and went with Mr. Coffee to his palace. The palace was huge, with tall gates, beautiful gardens, and many rooms. Layla was amazed. She had never seen a place so grand. Mr. Coffee introduced her to the other workers, including the cooks, cleaners, and gardeners. Layla was given a small room to stay in and was told what her duties would be. At first, Layla was happy. The palace was beautiful, and she had nice clothes to wear. But soon, she realized that life at the palace was not as easy as it seemed. Mr. Coffee was very strict. Layla had to wake up early and work all day. She had to clean the big rooms, serve food, and take care of the guests. If she made a mistake, Mr. Coffee would get angry and shout at her. Sometimes, he would even threaten to send her back to the village with nothing. One day, Layla met a boy named David. He was the son of one of the workers, the gardener who took care of the palace gardens. David was a little older than Layla and worked with his father in the gardens. He was kind and had a friendly smile. David saw how hard Layla was working and felt sorry for her. He often saw her tired and sad after a long day of work. David would bring Layla fruit from the garden or water when she was thirsty. They started talking and became friends. Layla felt happy whenever David was around. He made her laugh, and for a while she could forget about all her worries. But one day, something terrible happened. Mr. Coffee had an important guest coming to the palace. He wanted everything to be perfect. Layla was cleaning a large room when David came in to talk to her. They were laughing quietly when suddenly, Layla bumped into a table, and a large vase fell and broke into many pieces. Layla's heart stopped. The vase was one of Mr. Coffee's favorites. She knew he would be furious. Mr. Coffee heard the noise and came rushing into the room. His face turned red with anger when he saw the broken vase. He looked at Layla and then at David. Without a word, he grabbed David by the arm. "What are you doing here?" Mr. Coffee shouted. "You have no business inside the palace. You are supposed to be in the garden." David tried to explain, but Mr. Coffee wouldn't listen. He pushed David out of the room and turned to Layla. "And you, Mr. Coffee said," his voice cold, "how dare you bring someone into this room?" You are supposed to be working, not talking to the gardeners. Layla tried to apologize, but Mr. Coffee cut her off. You have caused enough trouble, he said. I should send you back to the village right now. Tears filled Layla's eyes. She didn't know what to say. She was scared and felt alone. Mr. Coffee was so angry that he ordered David to be punished. He told David's father to take him away and not let him come near the palace again. David's father begged for forgiveness, saying it was just a mistake, but Mr. Coffee wouldn't listen. David was taken away, and Layla didn't see him for days. She was sad and felt guilty. She knew that if it wasn't for her, David wouldn't be in trouble. She tried to work harder, hoping to stay out of Mr. Coffee's way, but the palace felt empty without David's smile. One evening, Layla was in the garden, feeling lost. She missed her home, her mother, and David. She wished she could turn back time and make things right. Just then, she saw David standing by a tree. He looked tired but smiled when he saw her. David, Layla whispered, running to him. Are you okay? I thought I would never see you again. David nodded. I'm fine, he said softly. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I know things have been hard for you. Layla's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, David. I didn't mean to get you into trouble. David shook his head. It's not your fault, Layla. Mr. Coffee is just a cruel man. He thinks he can treat people however he wants because he's rich. They stood there in the garden, talking quietly, knowing they had to be careful not to be seen. Layla felt better having David by her side. They promised to look out for each other, no matter what. But Mr. Coffee found out about their meeting. One of the other workers saw them and told Mr. Coffee. He was furious. He called Layla and David to the main hall and scolded them in front of everyone. He accused them of disobeying his rules and ordered Layla to be sent back to the village immediately. Layla was heartbroken. She didn't want to leave David or go back to her old life without a way to help her family. But she had no choice. Mr. Coffee's guards took her to the edge of the city and left her there. Layla walked back to her village alone, tears streaming down her face. When Layla reached home, her mother hugged her tightly. She was angry at Mr. Coffee for sending her daughter away but glad to have Layla back. Layla told her everything that had happened. Her mother listened and comforted her, saying they would find a way to get through it together. Days passed, and Layla missed David every day. She wondered if he was okay working in the gardens without her. Then one day, David came to the village. He had left the palace, refusing to work for Mr. Coffee anymore. He said he would rather be poor and free than rich and unhappy. David found work in the village, helping farmers and doing small jobs. He and Layla would meet whenever they could, talking and laughing like they used to. They knew life wouldn't be easy, but they had each other, and that was enough. Layla learned that sometimes, people in power could be unfair and cruel. But she also learned the importance of standing up for what is right, even if it means losing something. She was grateful for her friendship with David, which gave her strength and hope. Together, Layla and David faced their challenges with courage, knowing that true happiness came from being kind, loving, and true to oneself. And they knew that no matter how hard life got, they would always be there for each other.